Welcome to Morning Journal session number 404. Today's session, we're going to get started by noticing some things. The prompt we're starting out with today, right now, I notice. In the chat over on Instagram, we have a response that says, right now I notice that sacrifice is necessary. Sacrifice is necessary. Sometimes you have to give something up to get something else. So sometimes sacrifice is painful. And I think if it's not painful to some degree, it doesn't even register for us as a sacrifice. But what we are doing when we sacrifice is we are acknowledging that there is something better that I'm willing to let go of this thing for. And sometimes the better thing is a long time coming. It doesn't happen right away. The hardest part of a sacrifice is that gap between when you give something up and when you get the other thing that is going to come in its place. And if it happened instantly, I guess it wouldn't be a sacrifice either, because, you're just trading one thing of lesser value for a thing of greater value. And you can easily live with that. But that gap in between the time when you give something up and when you fully able to realize the thing that you are giving it up for, that's the challenging part. So noticing that sacrifice is necessary, it's a bracing realization. It's like the feeling that you have before you step into a cold pool. I wanted to use a pool because that's kind of a fun thing to kind of soften it up. But the feeling that you have before you are going into a difficult situation, you're bracing yourself for it for a moment, and then you kind of surrender into it, and you start to acclimate. You start to be able to develop a level of comfort, or at least acceptance of that in-between state of affairs between giving something up and getting the thing that you're giving up for. I guess if I want to tune into what I'm noticing right now, I'm noticing a sense of, there's a calm sense that even though things are kind of ragged around the edges, I'm not too worried about it. Sometimes I am very kind of strict and rigid with myself. I get fixated on certain details, and that can serve you sometimes when you are detail oriented, or when you kind of set these really tight rules for yourself. It can help you keep on track, but a lot of times it's not sustainable. And I guess it's never sustainable over the long haul. And if you can just kind of deal with the setbacks and not allow the breaking of a streak to throw you completely off, which is something that I've done before. When you have a perfectionist streak, as soon as there's a blemish, a lot of times you might feel like just throwing it away. But that's not a helpful thing. So I notice a sense of calm resignation and awareness of, things aren't perfect. There's some hiccups. There's some things that need to be ironed out, but I'm unbothered by it. All right. So today's session, moving on to the prompts that we're going to have for today, we're going to be talking about home. That's sort of what came up for me as I was writing, thinking about our sense of home. The first prompt that we're going to use to guide the conversation about home is this: how do I make myself at home? How do I make myself at home? I know that's a phrase that we hear often. I don't know how sincere the offer is when someone throws it out there, oh, make yourself at home. Because, I think if a person really came into a space and started moving stuff around and acting the way they do in their own private space, it might be a little bit jarring. So I don't know how much sincerity there is in that. It's like somebody say, okay, make yourself at home, and then you just walk in their kitchen and just start going through their refrigerator and doing all kinds of stuff. So making yourself at home, I think, is just kind of a polite phrase, but it's important to think about what that might mean. How do I make myself at home? Really? When you, maybe even when you come home, there are things that you do. So, first prompt, how do I make myself at home? I think for me, um, I've had um, I've had a lot of complicated home situations. I guess the most extreme was during the time when I was deployed. You know, my home was 8 foot by 4 foot square with a cot and all of my gear. And there was enough room for me to spin around and put my feet on the ground. Well, the first time I deployed, I was out, fresh out of basic training, more or less. And one thing I noticed is the more experienced soldiers that were kind of sharing the tent with me, they tended to, no matter how long we're going to be in a place, they would take the first few minutes of the time that we are there to really set themselves up. You know, they made their space. They put their pictures up. They arranged their area in a way that was suitable for them. They just spent a little time to do that. I just noticed that experienced people, they tend to say, hey, we're going to be out here. There's going to be a lot of things that we can't control. There's going to be a lot of bad situations, uncomfortable situations that we have to go into. So you need to have some place at the end of the day that kind of feels like yours or feels familiar and comfortable to maintain your sanity. So give that a thought. How do you make yourself at home? What does it feel like for you to make yourself at home? I know I'm seeing that I got a pause due to I got a poor connection over here. There is a response in Instagram. However, I put things where they belong. Then breathe and listen to something familiar. I put things where they belong. Then I just breathe and listen to something familiar. Yeah, I think sometimes we underestimate or we underplay the value of or the importance of what home sounds like. So I think um that's an important, I think it's an important an important feeling to generate in yourself to relax, is to take the time to, whenever you are, anyways, so even if you're traveling or whatever the case may be, taking a few seconds to create that space for yourself. All right, we're going to go to the next prompt. When I think of home, blank. What happens when I think of home? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Home for me is like not where I am now. I guess that I have to go all the way back. I think of the people, people are my home. So even though my childhood home doesn't exist anymore, the actual place um, isn't available anymore. The the people and the feeling of being around those people still exist. So when I think of home, I don't think of a place. I think of people. And when you are in a situation where the place where you are is not what you think of as home, even if it is um, serving the main functions on a daily basis that most people consider to be home, there's always a sense of something missing. I think first of the idea of displacement. There are a lot of people around the world for a variety of reasons. they are displaced. Um, Going back to um, the first thing I was talking about, where I making home, being deployed when I was in Bosnia. The big thing that happened before I got there was a lot of people were driven out of their place, driven out of their home, forced to migrate. Um, and so they were displaced. And, sometimes the people who were their home, they lost. So I think there is an ongoing sense of empathy that I have with that sense of, okay, I'm here, I'm in a space or in a physical location that is designed to meet all the functions of home. But then I don't feel like I'm at home. So when I think of home, as a response we have in the chat, I think of my comfy mattress. Second, I think about an environment where I can be myself. It doesn't matter where I am physically. Home is how I feel inside. Yeah. Well, I guess it's a beautiful thing to have that capacity within yourself to access that feeling wherever you are. And I guess outside of the mattress, you can't necessarily bring your mattress everywhere, but y- when you are around, when you can bring that feeling in other places, when you can make yourself at home. Basically, if you are good at making yourself at home, then you can have that sense. That's a beautiful thing. It's a gift to bring home with you wherever you go. This has been session 404 of Morning Journal. We've been talking about home. Today's prompts: how do I make myself at home? And when I think about home, what comes up for me? I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day and a great weekend. And I'll talk to you again soon.